Hello, fellow book lovers, both readers and writers. I am Maddie Dalrymple. I write the Ann Kinnear suspense novels and suspense shorts and the Lucy Ballard thrillers, and I also write, speak, podcast, and consult on the writing craft and the publishing voyage as the indie author. And this is my video series, What I Learned, where I ask authors two questions related to their latest book. What did they learn from that book that they would like to share with their fellow writers? And what did they learn from that book that they would like to share with their fellow readers? And I am here today with Kisha Stewart. Hey, Kisha, how are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for having me, Maddie.
I am very excited to have you here. And to give our viewers a little bit of background on you, Wakisha Stewart is a nurse and heart attack survivor on a mission. In 2022, the American Heart Association chose her as the national spokeswoman to educate the public about the risks of cardiovascular disease. The newly expanded edition of her memoir, A Sonata for a Damaged Heart, was just released in time for American Heart Month. And so today I'm asking Kisha the two What I Learned questions about Sonata for a Damaged Heart, starting with what did you learn from your book that you would like to share with your fellow writers?
What I learned is writing is hard. Initially, when I thought that I would write a book about my life, I thought it would be easy because it's simple. It's me just writing about my life. But in fact, it was a lot harder than I anticipated. You can't just say, oh, this happened. You have to go into detail, you have to expand, and you really have to dedicate that time to create or expand upon, your characters, which for me was my family. So I had to try to make sure that their personality came across okay and that the information that was provided was easy to read, easy to digest. Mm, I had to be hypercritical of myself, which isn't too hard. But uh,
A natural tendency.
right, right.
Yeah.
But actually putting pen to paper and allowing myself to be vulnerable and open up, that was hard. There were many times I had to take a break because some parts were just really that emotional. But I think the biggest thing that I learned was even though writing isn't, my full-time job, I had to treat it like a full-time job. I had to be prepared, whether it was me really talking to myself about, okay, let's really think objectively. How did this really happen? My view, my husband's view, any other people within my family, their views. And, it's hard. It's difficult. It's difficult to edit your own words. It's difficult to judge and leave yourself open, and then hopefully you have someone that you can give your, story to or book to kind of read, and it's anticipation, "Oh, are they gonna like it? Are they gonna have a lot of critiques? Are they just gonna have a few?" So, yeah, it was a lot harder than I expected.
I think it's interesting that you had to think about your family members as characters. Can you talk about that a little bit more? How you maybe changed the story you were originally telling when you realized that telling a story was not just relaying facts, but telling a story was part of the deal. And now you had to think about people you had known all your life as characters.
Right. So, like I said, when you're writing about your life, you think it's easy because you're with these people every single day, but it doesn't translate into a book. So, you have to really look at your family members. You have to, because you want to describe, you want the reader to be able to imagine you speaking with this person that you've known your whole entire life or many years. So, you have to describe what they look like and, your own view compared to what they might think is very different. But you also have to give them layers. And I never thought about that before. So, in describing my husband, I had to describe not just his physical appearance, but I had to describe what his, emotions were like, how he reacted to certain things. Same thing with my children. I had to describe where they were at their stage of their life, how they reacted, how they spoke, how I could describe how they walked or approached me about different things. I found myself really looking at people that I had in the book a little more closely because I wrote the book and it takes place over approximately a decade. So I had to go back and think, okay, in that particular moment, what did I think of this person? And how did I view this person? And how do I describe it to a point that the reader can understand, picture it? 'Cause I always thought that if I was going to write something, I wanted the reader to kind of imagine that they're seeing it on TV, so that they could see it in their minds. And essentially, some of the books that I have read that I've liked, it's been that I was able to picture these characters as I was reading and as if it were a movie playing in front of me. So I really, really tried very, very hard to do all of that.
Well, I like that insight into how you like to read. So let's use that as a transition to the second of the two questions, which is what did you learn from Sonata for a Damaged Heart that you would like to share with your fellow readers?
I learned a lot about myself in the book. Like I said, I allow myself to be vulnerable. So there are a lot of things that I had to address that I didn't address while I was going through it. Writing the book was very cathartic. It was probably the best and cheapest form of therapy that I've ever had. But I think the readers, I really want them to understand, and I want them to be able to digest a lot of what I went through, and I want them to be able to relate. The biggest thing, first and foremost, is I want people to understand that they have to take charge of their health, and it's important to be, the captain of your health. It's important for you to be the primary person and everyone else be a team player for you. And that's essentially my character as I lived it. I had many peaks and valleys, and I had to try to navigate through all sorts of different situations. And I think the readers will be able to some extent relate to it. So,
And it's interesting that you even had to think of yourself as a character. I think that's
right,
a really interesting insight for readers that when someone is writing about their own life, they themselves become a character of their story.
right. And then you have to truly allow yourself grace, forgive yourself for certain things, and you have to be honest. You have to be 100% authentic. And I want the readers to see that I'm being 100% authentic because I think when someone writes, it's a lot better when they're being open and honest. And I think that's what draws the reader in. It's because they can pick up on that vulnerability. They can pick up on that authenticity. And I think probably some of the best writers, that's what they do.
Yeah. It's like having therapy, but inviting everyone in to sit in on your therapy as you're having it, which is, I think, a very brave and daring endeavor to embark on. So, Keisha, thank
Right.
you so much for talking with me about Sonata for Damaged Heart. And please let everyone know where they can go to find out more about you and your book and everything you do online.
Yes. So you can actually go to my website, which is kishaandscad.com. That's KISHAANDSCAT.com. You can follow me on Instagram, just at the same Kisha and Scad. And you can look me up on Facebook as well, either with my name or search Kisha and Scad.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.